James Tuckerman's my name. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Anthill magazine. Quick question, how many of you were here for our online marketing event last week? So I can safely crack some of the same jokes, it's all right. Just laugh, all right? When I go through it. Bit of background, Anthill magazine. A lot of you here would be here because you're part of our newsletter and read the stories on the site and are part of the community. What a lot of people don't know is when Anthill was launched in 2003, on the masthead it said, Australia's first venture capital and fast growth business magazine. And the idea was it was going to be a venture capital magazine for people in the investment space, written about companies who are seeking money. The initial edition of the magazine had a circulation of about 6,000, and at the time I think BRW had a circulation of about 60,000. Anyone here from the media? One of our panelists asked before if anyone here was from the media, so if we say anything about any of the other media or anything like that, feel free, we'll bleep it out later. Of that audience, it was, of that 6,000, about 60% of them operated in the investment space, about 30% were advisors, and about 10% were entrepreneurs. But what inevitably happened is when a lot of the people operating in the entrepreneurial space discovered this magazine that was read by so many people from the investment community, they got interested and they started to buy it. And this was an unexpected development from my side of things, because what I had anticipated, of course, was that there are a lot more business owner entrepreneurs than there are investors in Australia. So by the time at our peak about 18 months ago, our circulation was our peak circulation was about 30,000. At the same time, I think BRW dropped to about 48,000. But the distinction is 60% of our readers were entrepreneur, business owner types, 30% were consultant types, and 10% were for the investment community. But it's obviously a hot topic in Australia, so we've kept it as part of the focus of our magazine, even if we drop it from the masthead. Which is why I'm particularly pleased tonight to bring together to the four of Australia superstars from the space, who come from a different variety of backgrounds. Don't blush, fellas. It's hard not to blush though in here, isn't it? To share some of their experiences and provide some advice. Now, as someone often with a short attention span, which I have, like many entrepreneurs, unfortunately, I have to make an effort to pigeonhole my panelists. So, as I said last week, one of my favourite bands from the 90s was the Spice Girls. Alright? It's scary. The reason why I love the Spice Girls so much is that it was a stroke of marketing genius. How easy was it to remember the Spice Girls? You had Scary Spice, you had Posh Spice, you had Baby Spice, you had the whole bit. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to pigeonhole the gentleman to my left. I have Mike Zimmerman, who is a VC turned entrepreneur Spice. I have Chris Hitchen, who is a serial entrepreneur turned angel Spice. I have Ilkka Tales, who I actually had as exit strategy Spice, but but he's got some pretty strong opinions about exit strategy, so maybe it could be spicy exit strategy Spice or something. Rob Fitzgerald, commercialization Spice. You all happy with that?
You have a choice.
I have a choice? Well, fortunately, yeah. As the joke goes, I haven't named any of you Old Spice, so it's all good. Alright. Rather than ask our panelists to introduce themselves, which would defeat the purpose of having all their bios on the materials when you signed up, what I thought it might be a better idea to do is ask some of our panelists a leading question, which will bring them to talk a little bit about their background. Mike, yes. Easy question, don't be afraid. How does one become a venture capitalist?
Lose
lose all your other jobs. In Australia?
Okay, in Australia. Well, more was a leading question to find out how you ended up in this space.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
By the way, how's the sound going? I know I'm quite loud because I stick it in my chin, but how are these guys going?
Struck the block, I think, for me. I actually have been working in the startup world for a number of years over in the U.S. and then was invited into a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley to be what's called an entrepreneur in residence, which is kind of a glorified intern, but very fun. And at that time, my wife and I decided to move back to Australia, and so at the time, I came back to Australia and started talking to venture firms. There were not many of them, but I was lucky enough to find the right situation, which was a venture firm that had just raised money, and so they had budget to basically hire this person. I fit a requirement they were looking for. They were starting to see a lot of their portfolio companies move overseas, particularly to the U.S., and so they were looking for somebody with U.S. contacts and networks. And I think I was the first person in the company that actually had quite a bit of startup experience. So
what year was this?
This was 2001, late 2001.
An interesting time to be entering the VC space in Australia.
Yeah, it was a difficult time, but at the same time, TVP, the firm I joined, was lucky enough to have raised a fund just before the downturn, much like some of the other guys like Southern Cross or Starfish did just during this last downturn. They raised money just before that, which put them in a great position to have their kind of pick the companies to invest in. So bottom line is I had a mix of skills, entrepreneurial, that I fit, some criteria that they were looking for in terms of experience, and they had just raised money, so they had budget for me.
So they could afford you.
Yeah, they could afford somebody.
And now you've moved, you've done that shift, you've jumped to the other side of the table, and you've got your own venture. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm founder and CEO of a company called Building IQ, which is an energy management software company. And basically, we've spun some technology out of the CSRO, one of the national research labs, the other one from NICTA. Technology was developed by them to reduce energy in commercial office buildings, commercial buildings, and basically set up the company, license the technology into the company, raise some seed capital, and off and running. Started the company in October, and so far have actually a number of customers and struggling with growth and getting the product to work and things like that.
I'll ask you a little bit about that in a little bit.